Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video we will look at the results for UFC 308 and find out which UFC prediction channels had the most correct picks and which channel won the most money with their picks if you followed all of them and placed money on every pick. But first, let's quickly look at the totals for this event and compare the Oddsmakers versus the Tapology community and the YouTube prediction channels. On this card there were a total of 13 fights. I tracked picks from 90 UFC prediction channels and those 90 channels made a total of 1035 predictions. On average, each channel made a prediction for 11.5 fights. Of the 1035 predictions, 728 were correct for 70.3%. And 307 predictions out of those 1035 were incorrect for 29.7%. Let's compare the Oddsmakers versus the Tapology community versus the YouTube prediction channels and find out who predicted the winner for each fight the most correct. If you had placed a $100 bet on all the favorite fighters according to the Oddsmakers, you would have won money 11 out of 13 fights for a return of investment of 17.1%. On the other hand, placing a $100 bet on every underdog would have lost you $735 for a negative return of investment of 56.5%. Only two underdogs on this card managed to win their fights, which were Ibo Aslan, who was a tiny underdog with minus 105, and Mateusz Rebecki, who was a decent underdog with plus 270 in odds. If you followed the Tapology community favorite picks, you would have won 9 out of 13 fights and lose $50 for a minus 3.9% return of investment. Compared to the Oddsmakers, they had two extra favorites that lost their fight, which were Bruno Ferreira, who was picked 65% and lost against Abus Magomedov, and Robert Whittaker, who got 52% of the picks and lost against Khamzat Chimaev. And if you followed the YouTube prediction channel's favorites in picks, you would have won 10 out of 13 fights for a profit of $114 or 8.8% return of investment. Compared to the Oddsmakers, they had one extra favorite that lost their fight, which was Robert Whittaker, who got 51% of the picks. So, in conclusion, this week the Oddsmakers were best at predicting the winner for each fight. Now, let's find out which YouTube prediction channel had the lowest correct pick percentage this week. For the results for least and most correct picks, we only look at channels that made predictions on at least 50% of all the fights, which in this case means a minimum of 7 fights. At the end of these results, I will show an overview slide which includes all channels, including the channels that made less than 7 predictions. In 7th place this week for least correct picks, we have Matty Betts. He made 10 predictions and 6 of them were correct for 60% correct. In 6th place we have Lucas Tracy, MMA and the Ice Files. They had 6 out of their 11 predictions correct for 54.5%. In 5th place we have these 7 channels who had 7 out of 13 predictions correct for 53.8%. In 4th place we have Paul from the Dogger Pass podcast with 5 out of 10 correct and Mom's Basement MMA with 6 out of 12 correct, both having 50% correct. In 3rd place for least correct picks this week is Blood Money MMA Bets. He had 6 out of his 13 predictions correct for 46.2%. In 2nd place we have Submission Script with 3 out of 7 correct for 42.9%. And in number 1 this week for least correct picks we have The Weasel. He had 5 predictions correct out of his 13 for a correct pick percentage of 38.5%. If you enjoy the content and find it helpful and informative, then don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much. Let's find out which channels had the most correct picks this week. In 4th place we have MMA Addict, MMA Data Guy, Brandon from Santino DeFranco and Angelo from We Want Picks. All 4 of them had 10 out of their 12 predictions correct for 83.3%. In 3rd place we have these 9 channels: All 9 of them had 11 out of 13 predictions correct for 84.6%. In second place, we have half the battle. He had 11 out of 12 predictions correct for 91.7%. And in first place this week for most correct picks, we have these 3 channels: Dissection of Violence, MMA Joey and Uncle Weezy. All 3 of them had 12 out of 13 predictions correct for 92.3% correct pick percentage. Here is the overview of all 90 channels that I've tracked this week with their correct picks, their total picks and the correct pick percentage. Sorry if it's a bit small, but this week a lot more channels than normal made predictions. For the results for the most unprofitable and profitable predictors, we will again only look at channels that make predictions on at least 50% of all the fights. For the results, we pretend that you place a $100 bet on every pick a channel makes, even if it is a pick with very low confidence or they don't like the odds. To calculate these results, we use the odds from the tail of the tape that are shown at the start of each fight. And again, at the end of these results, I will show an overview slide, which includes all channels, including the channels that made less than 7 predictions. At number 11 for most unprofitable predictor this week is the Ice Files. Following all of his picks and placing a $100 bet on each of his picks would have lost you $288. In 10th place we have Lightning MMA with minus $289. At number 9 is Based Goddess with minus $291. At number 8 is Paul from the Dogger Pass podcast with minus $295. And around the same amount of dollars lost, in 7th place we have Sean and Tyrell from the Running Mouth MMA show with a loss of minus $300. And they both made the exact same predictions. In 6th place is Cody from the Dogger Pass podcast with minus $307. And in 5th place is Home of Bets with a loss of minus $320 for a return of investment of minus 24.6%. In 4th place we have Kunat. He made predictions on 13 fights and following all of his picks would have lost you $357 for a minus 27.4 ROI. In 3rd place is Mom's Basement MMA with a loss of $414 for a 34.5% negative return of investment. In 2nd place this week we have Blood Money MMA Bets with minus $477 on his 13 predictions for a minus 36.7% return of investment. And in 1st place this week as the most unprofitable predictor with a significant higher loss we have The Weasel. Following all of his 13 predictions and placing a $100 bet on each of them for the outcome of the fight would have lost you more than $600 for a return of investment of minus 46.5%. At number 8 for the most profitable predictor this week we have the MMA fortune teller with a profit of $298 on his 12 predictions for a return of investment of 24.8%. In 7th place we have Once Upon a Slugfest with a profit of $305 on his 13 predictions for a 23.5% return of investment. In 6th place we have Bet Slam with Sam with a profit of $323 but a much higher return of investment of 32.3% because he only made 10 predictions. In 5th place this week with almost the same return of investment of 32.1% we have Dissection of Violence, MMA Joey and Uncle Weezy with a profit of $417 on their 13 predictions. In 4th place is a new channel, AsideMMA. He made 13 predictions for a profit of $438 for a 33.7% return of investment. And in 3rd place this week we have Brandon from the Santino DeFranco podcast with a profit of $445 for a return of investment of 37.1%. In 2nd place we have the True Analyst with $484 in profit on his 13 predictions for a 37.2% return of investment. And in number 1 this week for the most profitable predictor we have half the battle. And if you followed all of his 12 picks and placed a $100 bet on each of them, you could have won $528 for a very good return of investment of 44%. So congratulations to half the battle for being the most profitable predictor this week. In the description of this video you can find links to all the channels who were the most profitable predictors and had the highest correct pick percentage. Don't forget to check them out. Here is the overview of all 90 channels that I've tracked this week with their total money won, their total money lost and their return of investment. My next video will be the 5 months result video where we will find out which channels are the best predictors over the last 5 months with most correct picks, money won and return of investment. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that video. Thank you all for watching and have a great week.